In this video, we'll be having a look at the top 15 hottest performance hacks that will supercharge your Linux to the next level. Your Linux system is hiding a lot of untapped power, and with these secret tweaks, you can make your apps load faster, your internet quicker, games run smoother, your battery lasts longer, and we are going to turn your computer into a rocket fuel injected beast. I'm obsessed with making my computer hit its peak performance, and these 15 steps are my absolute must-do steps. From tuning up the RAM to tweaking CPU bursts, from optimizing our internet connection to bringing in turbocharged custom kernels, we are gonna cover everything. This is the ultimate performance hacker's guide. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Alright, let's start off with one of my favorite tweaks. When you click on an application icon, a small amount of time is needed for that application to be read from your hard disk and load it into memory before that app pops up on your screen. Now this time can be very short or quite long based on your disk read speeds, whether you're using a hard disk drive or a solid state drive, and the size of the application itself. Now here's how preload works its magic. Preload is a teeny tiny daemon that runs in the background and studies which applications you use more and most frequently. Basically, it creates a list of your everyday apps. Then, it loads parts of those applications into memory in advance. So when you actually launch the app, it starts much faster because it's already kept in the memory. It's like having your most used apps on standby, ready to go. This can make a significant difference in launch time of heavier applications like Office suites, web browsers, video editors, and other larger applications. And the best part, Preload is super easy to install and set up. Open a terminal, type in sudo apt install preload and hit enter. That's it. It auto starts as a background service. You won't see a GUI or anything, but it will quietly do its thing. Give it some time to learn your usage patterns and it will do its magic in the background. You will notice your most used applications start to load up faster after a few days. And if you're interested, you can check /var log preload.log to see what is getting boosted. Preload works best if you have 8 GB of RAM or more. If you already have a fast SSD, you won't notice a big improvement, but it will be there. You can remove preload anytime by running sudo apt remove preload. Next, I'll show you a really cool way to make your internet faster. No, you don't need to upgrade your internet plan or get a new router. You might have noticed, whenever you try to open a website, there's a very small gap in time before the actual website starts to load. This might be very small sometimes, and sometimes it can be quite long. During that time, the computer will be resolving the IP address of the website you requested. For this, your internet connection will use the DNS resolution that your internet service provider provides. It's okay, but DNS provided by your ISPs are generally not the fastest. By switching to a service like Cloudflare DNS, OpenDNS, or even Google DNS, you are tapping into ultra-fast, highly optimized networks that resolve domains much quicker. I mean, they are the best in the game. This means websites load faster. Open settings and jump to network. Click on the gear icon here on the Wi-Fi that you use. In the IPv4 section, turn off the automatic toggle. In this text box, paste the numbers from the description below. Then we do the same for IPv6 section. We are going to use Google DNS, which is really good. It's reliable and resolves IP addresses very fast. I've used many custom DNS and Google and Cloudflare DNS tend to work the best. I prefer the Google one. Apply the settings and turn off the Wi-Fi and turn it back on. Enjoy a faster internet. Seriously, try it. It's one of those tech hacks that once you do it, you'll never go back. GNOME Desktop has really slick transitions and window animations. They make the desktop look very polished. But they do use CPU and GPU resources. But most importantly, they use time. When you click on an application icon here, a fraction of a second is used to display the animations to bring up the window. Turning these animations off frees resources, but above all, it completely eliminates the time it takes to animate the window opening. And with that time removed, the applications pop up instantaneously the moment you click on the icon or switch applications. While benchmarks wise, this might not seem to be that big of a tweak, but the difference in the experience is really huge. App switching speeds when multitasking jumps up to the next level. Once you experience your computer like this, you'll never go back. Actually give this a try for a day or two. You can turn off animations using the GNOME tweak tool or just run this command. You can copy paste this from the description below. And your windows will pop open without any fluff. Yeah, You are trading speed for style, but once you do this, you'll suddenly feel like you upgraded your GPU. Not bad for a 5-second tweak, right? Ubuntu loves snap packages, and snap packages definitely have their benefits, but snaps can be slower to start and use more memory due to their containerized nature. Snap apps are confined with all their libraries and run as separate loop-mounted squashfs images. Every Snap application brings all its dependencies packaged along with them, and if two applications need the same version of the same dependency, they are again brought in twice and are stored on the disk in two places. If you open both those apps, the identical dependency is read from the hard disk twice from different locations, and two instances of them are kept in the memory. This adds significant overhead to something as simple as opening applications. Many Ubuntu users are always complaining about Snap apps being absolute performance hogs. These Snap apps load up annoyingly slow on the first start. But by using traditional .deb packages, you can significantly cut down on disk storage usage, startup time, and memory overhead. And this obviously makes your system feel lighter and faster. So whenever you're installing an application, consider installing it via Ubuntu's package repositories or a PPA. I myself almost never install apps as snaps unless it's available only as a snap. To install apps as a .deb package, you can either use the sudo apt install command or install the Synaptic package manager using the command given in the description below. Snaps are like fast food delivered, convenient but definitely bloated. Installing apps from the apt repositories is like home cooked meal, just leaner. The difference is really huge here. I recommend you install an app as a snap and as a .deb and see the difference for yourself. Even on other distros which might use Flatpak instead of snaps, you are going to benefit from using full native packages instead of Flatpaks. But in general, Flatpaks are a bit faster than snaps. Before we jump into this next performance boosting step, I want to give you a quick rundown of a couple of things. The Linux kernel uses an ingenious technique called swap to manage memory. When the system runs out of RAM, or if the RAM is full, instead of the entire system crashing, Linux moves certain inactive content from RAM to swap space. Swap space is a predefined area on the hard disk that acts as an extension of RAM. Let's say you have 4 gigs of RAM and you load up some heavy applications, and the RAM usage is at 6 GBs now. This obviously is physically and logically impossible, and without swap, the system would just hang and crash. But as I said, the system removes some things from the RAM and temporarily places them on the hard disk to make space for this new active process. This is called swap or swapping. This is basically like you writing down the grocery list on a piece of paper because you can't hold the entire list in your memory. In the older days when RAM was expensive and very limited, this was a groundbreaking technique. But now, RAM is relatively cheaper, so computers come with loads of it. So generally, we don't need the swap mechanism as much. And swapping actually makes your computer's performance slower because writing memory content onto the disk and reading it is a time-consuming process as your disk is exponentially slower than your RAM. The swappiness parameter controls how aggressively the system uses snap. By default, it's set to 60 out of 100. Higher number enforces a more aggressive swapping. A lower number uses swapping only when necessary. If you have 4 gigs of RAM or less, keep things as it is and don't change anything here. If you have 8 gigs or more RAM, then slightly toning down the swapping from 60 to 40 is better. Run this command to open the configuration file. At the bottom of this file, add in vm.swappiness is equal to 40 or any number you want here. Press Ctrl+O to save the file and Ctrl+X to close the file. And anything above 16 GB RAM, I would just keep it at 30 or 20. With this, the system will use swapping only when absolutely necessary and not slow down your computer with unnecessary disk read and write operations. By the way, if you haven't already, check out my course Linux Mastery Express. I've designed this course to level up your Linux skills very quickly. With this course, you'll get so comfortable using the terminal commands that your friends will think you're a Linux wizard. You'll get perfect with the most used, most useful commands and also learn advanced things like using the V-editor and shell scripting as well. Linux Mastery Express, link in the description, do check it out. Your GPU is a major component in how well your desktop performs, especially for gaming, 3D applications, and even just desktop compositing. Using the latest official drivers can can significantly boost performance and compatibility. NVIDIA users especially, you need to make sure that you're using the latest official proprietary drivers. Ubuntu automatically installs NVIDIA proprietary drivers when you're installing the system. But most other distros like Fedora, Arch Linux, Mint require that you manually install NVIDIA drivers. And using the official NVIDIA drivers instead of the open source ones gives a huge performance boost up. The difference is night and day. On Ubuntu, just open the additional drivers and see here. If you're not using the recommended drivers, select it here and install it. Reboot after it's installed. For AMD and Intel users, the drivers are already in the operating system and you just need to keep the system up to date. Your GNOME desktop comes with 3 power modes. With these modes, it gives you fine control over your system's performance as well as power usage. These 3 modes correspond to 3 governors that manage the CPU frequency. Ubuntu, by default, uses a conservative governor like on demand or power save. This is great for energy efficiency, but necessarily not so much for the system performance. The battery saver mode makes the CPU hover at a lower clock speed to prioritize battery life and energy efficiency. This is really useful on laptops when extending battery life is a priority. The performance mode prioritizes maximum system responsiveness when enabled. It configures the CPU and other hardware to run at their highest frequencies. This is very useful for resource-intensive tasks like gaming, video editing, and any other workloads that demand immediate computational power. The balanced mode here is the middle ground. It dynamically adjusts performance based on the current workload. It allows the CPU to scale its frequency to a lower state or a higher state according to the demand. This helps maintain a good mix of efficiency and responsiveness. And this is the mode that you should be using most of the time. Switch to the performance mode only when necessary, like maybe when you're gaming or doing some heavy work with multiple windows or video editing and stuff like that. Some time ago, I was having problem downloading a file, so I installed the Extreme Download Manager or XDman to download just that one file. It worked, and then I never used it again. A month later, I noticed that Extreme Download Manager was automatically starting up and running in my system tray every time I started my computer. I don't even use this program and it was auto-running every time I started my computer. This prompted me to have a deeper look at items that auto-start on my computer. Now all the services and processes that auto-start on Linux are necessary, and messing with those generally leads to some kind of unwanted behavior. And it's also true for 90% of the user-installed applications that auto-start up. Programs like Dropbox, Slack, Telegram, and tools like Conky and Redshift can auto-start if you set them to. And that generally improves the user experience. But it's definitely a good idea to have a look at these programs that auto start up and make sure that only your regularly used applications are auto starting. I mean, if you use an app once every week or just every fortnight, it doesn't make sense for that app to start up every time your computer boots. For this, we can use Stacer, which gives you full control over things like auto startup items, system services, and a lot more. I made a video on the top 5 hottest system monitoring apps, so check that out. Just make sure you're not removing any important messaging apps or system services. You can even Google or ChatGPT to see if something is safe to be removed here. Think of it like cleaning out your closet. Alright, this one's for the advanced users. Warning: make sure you have a Timeshift backup and a Linux live USB stick before you even watch this section. If you mess something up, you alone are responsible. Have your data backed up. This might leave your system unable to boot, but if you blame me if you mess something up, I'll laugh at you. For advanced users only. With that out of the way, let's proceed. The kernel is the core of the operating system, and some kernels are tuned for different priorities. The default kernel that we get with Ubuntu and most operating systems is tuned for a balanced delivery of performance and stability. But there are other custom kernels that you can use which are optimized for desktop responsiveness, gaming, low latency workloads, and performance in general. This is like swapping out your car's engine for a faster, better tuned version, Fast and Furious style. Speaking of Fast and Furious, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you're missing out on the power of family and friendship. So yeah, for the sake of Vin Diesel, subscribe. My favorite custom kernels are XanMod kernel, Liquorix kernel, and the Zen Linux kernel. These kernels come with some serious scheduling tweaks, CPU governor adjustments, and other performance-oriented patches that optimize these kernels for a snappier and more responsive user experience. These are fairly simple to install. Add the software sources, update the cache, and install. Commands are given in the description below. Once installed, reboot and choose the new kernel in grub bootloader. I think it will default to the newly installed kernel. Initially, the differences will be subtle, but yeah, you will notice a tad bit more responsiveness. Even in things like gaming, you will get better performance, although it will be in the low single-digit performance. But hey, it's free. Test your system if all is well, everything is working fine, and if you feel the difference, you can keep it as the default. If not, you can always reboot into your old kernel and uninstall the custom one using the commands given in the description below. Before uninstalling the custom kernel, it's important that you reboot into the old kernel using the additional options in grub bootloader. It should be noted that this is one of the higher risk tweaks, mainly because the kernel is a critical component. While XANMod and Licorice are generally stable kernels, many people use them on a daily basis, still, there is a chance of facing hardware driver issues or random bugs not present in the stock Ubuntu kernel. Many laptops and desktop monitors today come with 120Hz, 144Hz or even higher refresh rate screens that provide butter smooth visuals. It's really impressive how smooth these screens look. But running the display at such high refresh rates drains more power because the GPU has to push out frames for display that often, even when just idling. In some situations, when you're not playing games, you're just doing some work and maybe you're on battery and don't need that super smooth 144Hz, you can switch to 60Hz, which is less than half the work for your GPU and saves you significant amount of power. Lower refresh rate means fewer screen updates per second, which means graphics subsystems can idle more. Let me tell you, the battery gains from this is substantial. I'm talking hours better. And the GPU is more free to do other things as well. You can switch back to higher frame rates when gaming. Talking about the battery life, if you compare the battery life of your computer on Linux and Windows, there's a good chance that Windows might take a win here. Yeah, Linux distros are not exactly known for their battery life, but we have options. TLP is a super popular power management tool that auto-tunes your Linux settings for improved battery life without the need for any intervention from you and without any compromises as well. Just install TLP with this command and forget about it. When your computer is plugged into a power source, TLP does pretty much nothing because you are connected to a power source. But when your computer is running on battery, TLP kicks in. It dynamically switches your CPU governor to prioritize battery life. It turns off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth power when not in use. It tunes disk power modes and the USB ports that are not being used are auto-suspended. And it takes many such intelligent steps that give you noticeable results. In addition to a longer battery life, I also noticed my laptop fans go quieter with TLP and it also feels cooler. Here's another one for the gamers. Feral GameMode is a cool little open source tool developed by Feral Interactive, the makers of Batman games, Total War Warhammer 2, Shadow of the Tomb Raider and many other AAA titles. Feral GameMode temporarily tweaks your system for maximum gaming performance whenever you launch a supported game, and you can also manually turn on Game Mode. Basically, it's a turbo button that switches on when you game and turns off when you stop gaming. Yeah, it's like the nitrous oxide button from Fast and Furious, but you don't have to press it, it automatically presses itself. By the way, did you subscribe? Feral Game Mode boosts up things like the CPU governor to performance mode so that the CPU doesn't downclock mid-game. It boosts the game process priority so background tasks don't steal CPU cycles. It increases the I/O priority for game, disables the screensaver and even tells the GPU to go into performance mode. It essentially focuses system resources on the game and pauses and suppresses other processes running on your computer. It makes sense, right? When you're gaming, you're gaming. You generally don't do any other things on your computer at the same time. Why not tell your computer to focus on the game as well? And the best thing, Feral Game Mode is already installed on Ubuntu. Many games on Steam automatically call Game Mode when you launch the game. It works out of the box for many games, that is, they will request it if it's available. But if you want, you can add the Game Mode run % command in game's launch options to force it. You can also launch Game Mode with your non-Steam games by using this command format. This works with other applications as well. Like you can run the command Game Mode run Firefox and Firefox will perform better than if it's launched normally. This is an absolute must-have for Linux gamers. In an earlier section, we saw how techniques like swapping can be real lifesavers for older hardware with limited specs. ZRAM is another phenomenal technology that sets up a swap space but on the RAM itself. But the data stored on this block device is compressed. This essentially increases your RAM by 20 to 25%. Remember that old meme of downloading more RAM? Yeah, this is the closest thing to that. Let's go ahead and set up ZRAM on our Ubuntu. Open a terminal and run sudo apt update and then run sudo apt install ZRAM tools. This package installs and automatically sets up ZRAM. You don't need to do anything more, just reboot your computer. But if you want, you can configure the /etc default ZRAM swap file. Algo here is the compression algorithm used. Z standard is very good and it provides a good balance between speed and compression, and % of your physical RAM to allocate to ZRAM. Once this is done, reboot your computer and check that ZRAM is active by running this command. Here you will see your ZRAM device. This means it's working fine. Enjoy your additional RAM on the house. Ubuntu's default GNOME desktop is feature rich, but it can be heavy on resources. If maximum speed and hyper performance is your goal and you don't mind a change in the look and feel, then moving to a more lightweight desktop environment like XFCE or Mate or even LXQT can free up hundreds of MBs of RAM and, more importantly, reduce CPU usage, making your system feel much faster on older and low-spec machines. These lightweight desktop environments have very less bells and whistles. There are fewer to no animations, simpler interfaces, much lighter default applications like the file manager, and less background bloat in general. This is like switching your luxury car for a race car. You do lose some luxurious amenities, but you gain speed and agility. For people who prioritize performance over eye candy, this is a top tweak. And with a bit of configuration like custom themes and icon packs, you might end up getting the best of both worlds. Alright, with all these powerful performance enhancing steps done, it's time to clean up your system and start using it. For this, we will be using the good old Bleachbit. Bleachbit is a free and open source system cleaner that cleans up your disk space by removing unnecessary files from your system. It cleans cache, unwanted temporary files, old logs and other junk, making sure your system runs efficiently. Install Bleachbit by running sudo apt install Bleachbit. Then open it from the menu. You get two options: Bleachbit as root and just Bleachbit. First open Bleachbit as root and turn off the dark mode here. Now select the options here, and if you get warnings on any selection, just click on cancel. Some options can be dangerous here, so be careful with these. Once selected like this, you can preview the junk file and then click on clean to clean them. You can then run Bleachbit again without root to clear out application cache as well. While there are opposing views of opinion on using Bleachbit, I myself have found this to be very effective. Running this every 6 months or so definitely speeds up your computer and makes it more responsive. It cleans up to 5 gigs of junk file on my PC twice a year. Boom! That's 15 performance hacks that will make your Linux blazing fast. If you followed along, you should be feeling your system now leaner, meaner and faster than ever. Whether you're a gamer, a developer or someone who loves a snappy system, these optimizations will take your experience to the next level. And since you are watching this video, I know you are a performance junkie just like me. So tell me, which of these hacks made the biggest difference for you? And if you got your own secret Linux speed tricks, I want to hear them in the comments. Remember, Linux is all about control, and the best part, you can keep tweaking, fine-tuning and pushing the limits. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, definitely consider subscribing to the channel and also leave me a big thumbs up. And if you're interested in learning up your Linux skills, the link to my course, Linux Mastery Express, is given in the description below. It's designed to teach you Linux and take you from zero to hero within the shortest amount of time possible. You'll be using Linux like a pro within a matter of hours, so definitely check that out. By the way, GNOME Desktop has just dropped a huge release. GNOME 48 is here with some big changes and improvements. I made a complete video on it, so definitely don't miss that. Alright, this is Linux Techs signing out.